Ladies and gentlemen,
thank you. Thank you. Hey. Well, good morning. Good morning out there. How y'all doing? Man, I was ready to give him the hook a little while ago. He was up there so long.
all right, here. You know, the lip wedge is one of my better clubs, so you just might want to.
You did very well with it.
I got a great deal of respect for you, but that you kind of opened the floor there for me. But seriously, welcome to Masters and our LPL conference, and thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. Nice to be here.
It's I got to share. So I speak a lot. You wanted to give me the hook a few minutes ago, which is not lost on me. But you know, we're in a highly regulated business, so I got two disclaimers. One is my upbringing requires me. My parents said if you respect somebody and you want to treat them with the respect they deserve, you call them Mr. or Mrs. and you're nice and polite. I've been told I have to refer to Mr. Nicklaus as Jack, so I won't do that again. But I want to make sure I'm getting that disclosure out of the way because I have the utmost respect for you. Second is I grew up literally idolizing this gentleman, so I'm kind of like schoolboy giddy. If I babble or get ahead of myself, I got some stats. I'm not a stalker, I'm just a historian.
Okay, we'll go for that.
There's a huge difference. But seriously, it's an honor, and thank you for joining us.
My pleasure, Andy.
Let's start talking about golf. Great video, talks of the breadth of what you've done, but let's focus on the golf. And you know, in the golf world, there's been some interesting chatter in the last week or two. You have not been very bashful to say you had a little trouble and you had a couple of strings of 80 and above, I believe, right?
Well, you know, people have always said they wanted to play golf like I do, and now they can't.
Yeah, well.
So.
They're still not that good, trust me.
Well, I went back and, you know, every time I go, I've got some guys I go play golf with occasionally. I don't play much golf anymore, but I go and I say, what's your handicap? And they say 8 or 9. I said, well, you know, when I was playing pretty well, I gave them 8 or 9. I'm now actually a 4 or 5 handicap. And I said, well, what's our game today? He says, oh, he says, we got our 8 or 9. I said, but I'm a 4 or 5. Makes no difference. I'm still getting 8 or 9. So anyway, they don't shoot to 8 or 9, so I'm all right. But anyway, I start looking back at the scorecard in the book. I hadn't broken 80 since November 9th. I played 9 straight rounds in the 80s. Now, it may be good for a lot of people, but I don't really care for it.
I'm not overly surprised by that.
No, I don't care for that. Anyway, the last week I found a little something in my swing, and I'm sounding like a guy who plays golf. But anyway, I've broken my age the last 3 times I played, so that's good.
You didn't just break it, you broke it by 6. You shot 71, right?
I shot 76, 71, then I shot 74 at Augusta a couple days ago.
That's pretty good. So, so I'm kind of curious. So, did you find something? Were you working on something at the range?
No,
or was it
actually, the last time I practiced was 2005. No, that's the honest truth. I just don't practice. I played my last tournament round at St. Andrews, and I said, well, I'm done playing golf. I'll go out and I'll play occasionally, play for fun. So I don't ever practice. I play probably, well, this time of year I play maybe a couple times a week. And this is sort of the charity season, and we're playing a lot of pro-ams and things like that. And then in about 2 weeks I'll be done with golf until about October or November, and I won't play at all. So, you know, I just don't play much, but I still enjoy it. It's fun. It's a great game, and I forgot what I was going to talk about, but that's okay. We'll go on to something else.
So let's talk about when you started golf. You obviously had a phenomenal career, but early on you played a lot of sports, right? Football, baseball, basketball, and obviously golf. Where was that point where you said, hey, you know what, I'm going to focus on golf, or I think I actually got something kind of special?
Well, you know, I think you probably all got kids out there today, and you know, they go and you go to school, or they go to the parks and so forth, and the coaches will say, oh, is it really going to be good? You says, you've got to really, you know, you got to concentrate just playing baseball. He says, how in the world can your 6-year-old get to the next level unless they just concentrate on baseball? But of course, that's ridiculous. But that's what they do today. And I've been very, very much against that. I've always felt like the development of your body is important, and I think kids should have the enjoyment while they're through their high school ages anyway of playing all sports, competing, individual sports, team sports. I love team sports. And I think it's great to be able to do that. And so my philosophy has always been, play them all. And in my case, I was a decent athlete. My dad was a very good athlete. And I got to golf by process of elimination. And what I mean by that is, I was a football player. I played quarterback, and I threw the ball pretty well. But I figured out when the ball got wet, my hands are not very large, and I couldn't hold on to the ball the way I'd like to. So over time, football. My dad played professional football, so it sort of got by the wayside. Baseball was something that conflicted with golf. Did I want to get up in the morning and be able to go out to the golf course and play all day long on my own or whatever I want to do and get as good as I wanted, or I want to sit in a park, wait for 7 or 8 other kids to come so we can have a game, and then they get bored in about an hour and leave? I didn't like that. So I sort of gravitated to golf. And baseball is probably my best sport. But basketball, on the other hand, I grew up in Ohio. It was a sport that we didn't play golf in the wintertime, so I played basketball. I was recruited at Ohio State for basketball, along with Jerry Lucas, John Havlicek, and that group. So they had a pretty good team. And I enjoyed competing against them in high school, but obviously not when we got to college. I sort of decided, I looked at my height, I looked at my speed, and I said, So anyway, I kept playing, but golf was just another sport to me. As a matter of fact, I played in a rec league basketball until I was 40 years old. And so I just couldn't come ever play a tournament. I could only play in a basketball league. But anyway, I always saw, back in those days, we never lifted weights. We always tried to, I always tried to play other sports. I water skied, I snow skied, I played tennis, did all kinds of things. And that's how I kept my body in shape. And I felt like, I see the guys today get hurt. Yeah. And in all sports, I see them get hurt. And I really believe that's because they haven't developed their body fully to be able to handle all kinds of situations. And I don't like what they do today, but of course, nobody 77 likes what somebody 25 does anymore. You understand that. So anyway, that's the way I did it, and even the football players didn't lift weight back when I played. So they develop your body, play all the sports, give the kids, let them have fun. And in my case, as I said, each one of those things was a process of elimination. I ended up gravitating to golf because I found that it's something I could do individually. It's something I could be as good as I wanted to be, or as much as effort I wanted to put into it. And that's what I like doing. So that's where I got to.
Looks like it was a pretty good choice.
It turned out all right.
You did okay. That was good.
But the thing about it is, it was never, if I'd only tried this. I tried all the sports. So by process of learning, I actually said, it's not, 20 years later, gee, I wish I would have, you've always, I've done all those things, and that's why I was quite happy where I ended up.
That's great. That's interesting. Let's spend a second on just the way you approach the game of golf. You're legendary on your prep. Dan, I don't know if you were in the room yet, Dan talked about his mom talking about how she encouraged him for preparation. Chance favors the prepared. You're legendary for how you prepared your year around the majors.
Sure.
You talked about how your course management did it. Walk us through that, the mental aspect of it.
I started playing golf when I was 10 years old. And I was just like many other kids, and if you have any of your kids, you start them in golf, you've taken them over to either a public golf course or a private golf course or whatever it might be. And you've got a local pro, and he starts you out. I was in a class of 60 on a Friday morning, and I went out there, and we all hit balls. About the third week, Jack Grout was his name, and Jack Grout said, Jackie boy, he says, come out here and show these kids how to hit the ball up in the air. Show these kids how to hit a hook. Show these kids how to hit a slice. And of course, that sort of boosted my ego, and I got I really liked that. And he got me started, and as it went on, I'll never forget halfway through the first year that I was playing golf, the bill from the club came home for golf balls at the range. They were 35 cents a bucket, and I had, for the month of June, about a $300 bill. And my dad said, Jack, what? He says, well, you wanted me to learn how to play, didn't you? He says, yeah, he says, but what's this? Well, anyway, pretty soon Jack Grout saw some promise in me, so he sort of didn't charge me anymore and started giving me private lessons, but then didn't charge me for that. And Jay Grout was just wonderful. He's like a second father to me. But what he did is he took an interest. I don't know if he was the best teacher in the world, but I don't think you have to be the best teacher. I think you have to take interest in your pupil. I don't care whether you're in golf or you're in business. If you're trying to mentor somebody and you take an interest in them, that younger person knows that. So Jack Grout took an interest in me, and he taught me how to play, what to do, how to think, how to prepare myself, how to be responsible for my own actions, and how to handle myself with adults, but also how to handle myself when I had adversity and then when I had success. And my dad, of course, helped me along with that too. My dad was wonderful. And so, as I grew up, I figured out that you had to learn how to play within yourself. I mean, if you're in business, it's the same thing. You know what your strengths are, and you know what your weaknesses are, and you should always play to your strengths. And and so you do that as you're going on. And I learned what my strengths were. I learned how to play within myself. I got a lot of young kids that come to me today, and they say, I have trouble finishing this. I have trouble doing this. I said, well, figure out where your strengths are, what you can do, how can you play within your own abilities. Don't try to do something that you can't do. Well, that's Bob Jones was actually the one that got me into that. And I went down to his cabin every year at Augusta, and he said, when I learned how to correct myself and be my own person, that's when I became a golfer. I didn't have to run back to Sterling Maiden, who was his teacher. And that's what I learned. And so I learned how to prepare. I learned how to get ready. And so when I got to major championships, I was really felt, of course, Jones was sort of my idol. He was my father's idol. And I never actually saw him hit a golf shot, but he sort of, I watched what he did. And so majors became sort of my focus. And I noticed that, a lot of the guys would go to a major and treat it exactly like any other tournament. Well, that didn't make any sense to me. I says, who won the Tucson Open in 1980? Who won the U.S. Open in 1980? A lot of people will be able to tell you who won vice versa and whatever. You really, I'm sorry about Tucson, but the majors are the ones that are the lasting events. Those are the ones that you're compared to. So I always went to events a week ahead of time. I went and found out how fast the greens were, found out how narrow the fairways were, how deep the rough was, how bad the trees were, all the things that I needed to play. So I went in the week before, got ready for the tournament, and then I went home for the weekend and sort of relaxed, sort of gathered myself, thought about what I was going to do. And when I went back on, let's say, Tuesday of the tournament, all I had to worry about was playing golf. Where all these other guys are coming in on Monday of the tournament, and they say, oh my gosh, these greens are fast. Oh my gosh, the greens are hard. Fairways are narrow. By the time the tournament rolled around, they weren't ready to play yet, and I was. And I think that gave me a great advantage. And I remember I made a big mistake one year. Gary Player was a good friend of mine. Gary still is a wonderful friend and a great guy. And 1964, I said, or 65, excuse me, 65, I said, Gary, what are you going to go play the week before the U.S. Open for? Don't you ever want to win the U.S. Open? He says, yeah. I said, he says, I only come over here for a few weeks. I said, Gary, why don't you skip that tournament? Because we come to Belle Reve with me and we'll go practice and get ready to game. I think you'll play better. Well, of course, I took him there the week before. We played, and he won. My mistake. And so I said, I never told him to do that again. Yeah. But, that's what I did most of the time. And, you're not well prepared every time you play. You try to be, but you aren't always well prepared. I'll never forget about the mid '80s. I was not playing that much golf anymore, or good golf, and I was playing in Oklahoma City at Oak Tree, and Oak Tree just didn't seem to fit what my eye was, and so I didn't prepare properly, and as fate would have it, I missed the cut. So now there's only one thing worse than missing the cut. I was working for ABC at the time, and I was doing some commentary. So the only thing worse than missing the cut is have to stay around the weekend and talk about the other golfers on television. That is no fun. Well, on Friday night after I missed the cut, Barbara and I went to one of the kids was with us. I can't remember, probably Michael. Michael said, where do you want to go for dinner? And of course, we went right where I should go. We went to McDonald's. And at McDonald's that night, there was a little cup that my wife saw. And the next morning, she put coffee on the table, and there was in this little cup. And on the cup, it said, there is no excuse for not being properly prepared. And there really isn't. So whether you're playing golf or in business or whatever you are, if you're going to go see a client, you better be prepared. I wasn't prepared, and I paid the price for it. I didn't do that too often, but every once in a while I found that out. And you know, it's not about a golf course not suiting your eye. You're not supposed to. The golf course is not supposed to suit you. You're supposed to change your game to fit the golf course. It's the same thing in business. You've got to fit your client.
Yeah.
You can't. It's not about you. It's about your client.
Yeah.
And that's the way I always felt about my golf course. It was about where I was going to go or what I had to do. Lee Trevino always said, I can't play Augusta. This game doesn't fit my game. I said, Lee, it's not supposed to fit your game. You're supposed to fit your game to it. And he never could understand that until after he was done. He came to me and says, I wish I'd listened to you. He says, you were absolutely dead right. Because he was a wonderful player. And he just never could play Augusta.
Yeah, well, there's a couple of interesting data for you. Again, the historian, not the stalker side. 18 majors, right? 18 majors, 8 of which you came from behind to win the majors.
Did I?
Right? That's what my little history tells me.
Okay.
If you don't know, then we'll say it's right because you can't
I know.
Number 1 in total majors. Tiger was the question of whether he would catch you. No disrespect, physically he doesn't look like he's probably in great shape to do that. Never know.
Well, he is a very talented young man, and I like Tiger a lot. I'm really unhappy that he's physically having his problems because I've gone to Tiger and tried to help him on numerous occasions. I've said, Tiger, nobody wants their records broken. But, you know, I don't want you not to be able to play and compete physically, not to be able to do that. And so I've tried to help him with, you know, trying to get physically and so forth and so on, but it just hadn't worked for him.
Yeah, it's got to be hard on him too, I would imagine.
Yeah.
But an impressive, the part that I was always been impressed with, one of the many things, is just the prep and the discipline. And you made a comment once I saw that said, it was either your dad taught you how, maybe it was Jack Nicklaus, taught you how to win, not necessarily how to don't lose a tournament. And then I was watching a clip that I think, was it the Congressional Medal of Honor? I think Jackie did your talk for you. And he referenced a story where you guys are out fishing and there was a story around, somebody asked you around what it took to win, and you said it was because I didn't have a fear of winning. And they said, no, correct me, you mean fear of losing? I said, no, fear of winning. It takes courage to win. And that's the part that I always watched of you, is it looked like you always had a plan and that there was no fear in that decision to try to win. And elaborate on that, if I got the story right, if I got the history right.
You know, I always looked at, there were some really good players, I won't name names, but they were afraid to win because of what could happen to them and where it would seem to or at least it appeared that's what it was. And you look at these guys and say, wow, what talent. And they just self-destruct. And, you know, it's, you have to really want to win. And you have to be able to embrace winning. You have to be able to learn how to lose too, because you don't learn a whole lot from winning. Well, you do learn how to win, but you also learn how to, you know, move forward. I remember Roy McIlroy, who I think is just a terrific kid, and not only that, but a terrific player. Roy came to me, this is probably about 5 years ago, and he was over here at the Honda tournament here in town, and he asked to have lunch with me. So we came over and talked, and he said, God, I just can't finish. He had won a tournament about a year prior to this at Dubai, he won. And he said, I get down the stretch and I just can't get there. And I said, well, Rory, I said, just be patient with yourself. I said, figure out, you know, what I was talking earlier, figure out who you are, what you do, how, and what your strengths are, and stick to your strengths. And I said, be patient. Patience is a great virtue. And I said, it'll come along. I said, pretty soon, instead of shooting 35 or 6 the last 9, you'll shoot 31 or 2 and 33, whatever it might be, and you'll win the golf tournament. And so anyway, about 3 weeks later, Rory went to Charlotte and shot 63 the last round, won by 6 or 7 shots or whatever it was. And I dropped him a note and I said, you know, I told you to be patient, but this is ridiculous, you know. So then he came to me, and I think it was the next year, he got to the Masters, and leading the Masters, going to the last round, and shot like 80. And he came to me, and I said, all I said to him was, because I knew he knew how to win, I said, Roy, I said, did you learn anything? I said, you shot 80, you were in the lead, what did you learn? And he says, well, I learned this, that, and so forth and so on. I said, well, go apply it. And I think it was actually 2 weeks later, he went to Congressional, and he won the U.S. Open by several shots, a bunch of shots. And so I dropped him a note after Congressional. I said, okay, now you obviously learned what happened at the Masters. I says, but did you learn what happened at Congressional? You learned why you lost. Now did you learn why you won? I said, that's just as important. So, you know, I think that's what you do not only in golf, but you do it in every walk of life. You learn what happens to you and what you did wrong, but then you learn what you did right, and you learn how to build on that. So anyway, I don't remember what the question was or where we were, but
that was pretty much it.
But it was close to in that area
good.
somewhere.
You're good. You're good. You're right there. So you have a reputation of being a giver, giving back to young guys like Rory and a bunch of others. How's that feel when you know these young guys are really just looking for some insights and some wisdom? I mean, it's an ultimate compliment.
Well, it's a nice compliment. I get a tremendous kick out of it, obviously, because it keeps me relevant to what's going on. And the Bears Club is my course up here in North Palm Beach, or in Jupiter, actually. And we've got, I think, 29 or 30 of the touring pros are members of the club. And they all pay their dues and everything else. I mean, that's pretty good. The club likes that. But they're all there all the time. They're playing with each other, and I'm with them all the time. I see them all the time, and I get them to come ask me different things. And, you know, it's very flattering to me. Justin Thomas has been talking to me quite a bit. I really like the kid, young kid. He's won 3 tournaments early this year, and he's just a great young guy. And I saw him after he won the 3 tournaments. Then I watched him play, and I hadn't really talked to him other than to say nice going. And he played, I guess last week in Mexico.
Okay.
And I saw his swing, and I didn't like his swing after what I saw. So I saw him this last week. And he said, yeah, I said, I'm struggling a little bit again. I said, well, did you go back and take a look at your swing at Hawaii, and take a look at your swing at Mexico? Watch what your head's doing at the start of the backswing. And I said, you know, I don't want to teach you. I said, your dad's your teacher. But I said, it's just a little suggestion. I get a big kick out of that, because then he would go back and look at that. Now, all of a sudden, here, 77 years old, telling her, you know, how many 23-year-olds listen to 77? You know, not many. And so it's kind of fun to be involved in that, and you know, to be a little bit of a mentor to these guys is something that it keeps me young, keeps me excited about what's going on.
Well, I think you're modest. I think these guys think of more than you just a little bit of a mentor. I think they look up to you, and I think you give back, and I think it's pretty cool.
Well, I try to, and I think it's fun to be part of it.
Yeah. Let's shift a little bit, if you don't mind. The men and women in this room run businesses as well too. You've done a wonderful job of building a brand over decades. Heck, you and Arnold were probably the first 2 golfers to really build really good brands. Could you share a little bit around that? We were back there, and you were talking about the quote, all the mistakes you made. Share a little bit just about your learnings, and it was kind of funny the way you positioned it, because this is a question that they're wrestling with every day. How do I build my brand? What do I want to be known for in my community? Some of these people do it in multiple cities, but just share any insights you got.
Well, I wish when I was 23 I had a 77-year-old to listen to. Because I was pretty much headstrong about what I wanted to do. I wanted to play golf. And if I wanted to play golf, I felt like I'd seen, well, maybe by the time I was 30, I'd seen a lot of young golfers that came along, and you know, they were represented by a sports agency type thing. And pretty soon they had a little bit of success, and all of a sudden they were out trying to make as much money as they could. And they didn't last very long. And I felt like playing golf was what I did. So I didn't really do a lot of outside stuff. And I have a clothing contract and, you know, shoe contract, hats and few things like that, but, and a couple of endorsements, but nothing that really took a lot of my time. I focused on what got me there, you know. And so I got there by playing golf, so I focused on that. As I got a little bit older and I guess I was about my mid-30s, and Pete Dye came to me about doing, helping with a golf course. And I said, Pete, I don't know anything about that. He said, yeah, you know a little bit more than you think. So I went over and he said, what do you think about this? I said, I don't like that. He said, well, then what would you do? I don't know what I'd do. He says, tell me what you do. So I told him, and he did it. And pretty soon that got me interested in another field. So I started, actually, I never felt like golf took up all my time. I always felt like I had to have some other things to do. And so I got involved in golf course design. And that was probably the first part of really actually starting to build a little bit of a brand. And I did my first golf course with Pete in 1968, and we played Heritage Golf Class in '69. He asked me to consult with him after this thing. And so I started another business. And I've done, the thing video said the company's done a little over 400 golf courses now. I've done about 300 of those myself. And all over the world, I really enjoy going around the world, meeting people, different cultures, different philosophies, different ways to do things. We've done that, but I really started too late, in my opinion, of really building that. My guys would come to me, Jack, we've got this opportunity to do this, do this. I said, now, I don't want to do that. I said, I want to figure out, how do I maximize my time other than playing golf, and what is my best revenue per day, and where does it come from? Well, it came from design. Design was my best revenue, better than the other. Oddly enough, we don't do much of it, but per time we spent, I give each one of you a guess, and I bet you can't guess, but you know what per hour that I make the most money doing? Signing my name.
Really?
Isn't that ridiculous? And it is. I mean, all the memorabilia and stuff that we do, and of course they have memorabilia companies, and so we sign our name, but I don't do that much of it, but per hour I probably make more doing that than anything else. And so we started going and we started figuring out how to start building what we did and with the business. And we started getting into clothing. We said, you really need to figure out how you're going to take this brand and take it to another level. And I didn't think we were really quite capable of that. We had taken it to a certain level, so I really went out to look for a partner. And I found a New York bank, that a fellow who actually a lot of different people made offers to buy part of the company. And I thought also it was time that I had an opportunity to maybe monetize some of the stuff that I had done through the years. And I'd transferred 99% of my company to my kids already, so that at a low value, which was the right thing to do. And so rather than them having to wait until I kicked the bucket, I could get them a little bit of money earlier in life, and so I did. And so my partner and we focused on, since I've stopped playing golf, focusing on how to build my brand and how to take it beyond my lifetime. So we've started getting involved after we got involved in the clothing stuff. Started getting involved. First thing we really got involved with was lemonade. And lemonade, we were involved with Arizona. And Arnold was involved with Arizona with the Arnold Palmer, the iced tea and lemonade, because I didn't want to infringe on Arnold. So I called Arnold and I said, AP, I said, I've got an offer by Arizona here to try to develop something. I said, I don't want to infringe on it. He said, oh, don't be silly, that's fine. Arnold's a good guy. He was really a good guy, a good friend. And he said, no, don't be silly, that's fine. You got my permission. So I didn't want to do that without his, because I just don't like to do those things that way. But anyway, we went into that. Then we came along with wine. I thought wine was a nice thing to be able to sort of broaden out what we're doing. And we got involved with the Trelato family. And the Trelato family is out of Chicago, but they own, I think, 11% of the high-end vineyards in Napa. And they own Chimney Rock and Rutherford Hills, Sanford, things like that. Some really nice wineries. And so we developed a wine with them. We've developed some really nice wine, done nicely with that. We got involved. Then we got involved with ice cream. How ice cream came along, I don't know. But I don't know if you're familiar with the Schwan Food Company out of Minnesota, but Schwan's a private company. I'm not sure they're $3 or $4 billion company, and they never sell anything with their own name on it to the retail store. And they wanted to go to the retail market with ice cream. I don't know how they found me, but I do like ice cream. And it cost me 20 pounds, which I haven't gotten off yet. But we started with them in the pint business. So anyway, we're working that now. We're just this year introduced we're doing a test market in Arizona right now with milkshakes. Okay. With our 3-gallon ice cream that we can sell to stores and restaurants and ice cream shops and things like that. And Schwan with their trucks, which I think they have 4,000 trucks, can deliver 3 times a week. So that's going to end up being a nice business. So the ice cream business is something we're doing well with. But the thing is just trying to build those things. Then I look back and said, gee, why didn't I do this 15 years ago? And I wish I had, because all those things would be, go to maturity now. Now I'm here, I'm 77, I sold my company, or part of it, 10 years ago, and I'm probably going to stay on for, another few years, because I want to make sure that the building and the legacy that I leave is a brand that goes beyond my lifetime. Brand is not about what I do today. Brand is about, Paul Newman, for instance. Paul Newman, since he's passed, his brand is compounded at about 10% since he passed. So that's not too bad, I think, for a fellow. And of course, Paul does a lot with charity. We have a charity component with everything we do, and we have a certain percentage of what goes back to our Nicklaus Children's Healthcare Foundation, which we founded about 12 years ago. So all those things are things in building that, and my golf course business brand, or the design business, has become a brand. Or if you go back and go look at our brand as it relates to real estate and how it's happened with golf courses, you're going to find that our golf course business is sold for more than anybody else. The real estate at the properties, the average is sold for more. The golf course memberships have sold for more than anybody else. So we're proud of that, and it's something I still enjoy doing a lot. I get a big kick out of it. But,
good.
But I'm sure we'll get involved in some more things too.
Yeah,
we're involved in some other things I'm sure that my mind's not registering on.
That's a lot. That's great. That's wonderful. You referenced a minute ago some things that are important to the men and women in this audience. You referenced monetizing your business. You referenced succession, and you referenced family business, all of which will hit different aspects of the men and women here. So talk a little bit about the business owner, you got the family aspects, you want the generational passing wealth, just how you went through that and what the pluses and minuses of that someday.
Well, I think you got a couple plus and minuses. I think it's you don't want your kids to wait till you pass before they have anything, but you also don't want to make them wealthy when they're young. You got a balance there, and so I suppose I probably could have done a better job with that, but I did. It's a job I did. My kids are all involved in the business to some degree. None of them want to run the business, so that's okay. My son Gary has become sort of his own entrepreneur. He's got business. One of the companies you do business with, which is Camden.
Camden Capital, yeah. Yeah,
Camden. He and his partner bought most of that, and I'm involved a little bit with that. I hope they do well with my money. That's one. Gary's bought a America called Nearshore Technologies, which is business problem solving from outside the country, and he bought a few other things that have done very well. My son and Gary's on our board of the company. Jackie is my oldest. He loves design. He's very good at it, and he's a president of our design division. My son Steve, he just sort of lives by the sea. He's invested in a bunch of different things, and he's doing fine. And my daughter's husband does most of her stuff, and my son Michael, not involved at all, but Michael's got the Golden Bear name and has his own real estate brokerage firms. He's in Palm Beach and in Charleston, South Carolina, and he lives in Atlanta. I said, Michael, how do you run a real estate business living in Atlanta? He said, Dad, you don't do the way they used to do it. I said, Michael, you got to develop relationships. Dad, it's all going to be done over the internet. Where's you buy houses today? Over the internet. I mean, kids are a lot smarter than I am. I don't know. I always thought I want to go see somebody face to face to do it, but not everything's that way today. But anyway, my kids are all involved in it, but yet not involved, and I like that. I mean, I never wanted to. When I was playing golf, I never wanted to push my kids into the game of golf. I said, I want them to play golf because they want to play golf, not because their dad wants them to play golf. They were all good athletes. All 5 of my kids went to college on a D1 scholarship, which I'm very proud of. That's pretty good.
Really?
And I had 3 in golf, 1 in football, and 1 in volleyball. And I didn't, and they all said to me, why didn't you teach us more about golf? I said, because I wanted you to like golf, because you wanted to like it, not because I wanted it. And ended up 3 of my boys ended up being golf professionals. They all got their amateur status back now, and they're all doing different things in life. But that was good. The succession part of it, they are my succession to a certain degree, but they don't have to. They don't necessarily have to do what I did.
Right.
As long as they have good judgment and I think they've got a good background to be able to pick the right people to work with them and to do what they have to do. I'm reasonably happy with what we're doing. Could I have done better? Sure. Could I have done worse? Sure.
Well, I think you've done pretty well. I think it's fascinating sitting here watching this. It's hard to stay in the conversation because it's like I'm watching a TV show. But you see a little glimmer of you, and you're a little critical of when you could have done or what you could have done. Look, it looks to me one of the reasons you're so successful is you always challenge yourself, and I think you've done a wonderful job. It looks like you've got a wonderful family who's enjoying working in the business, and you should be very proud of that, and I think it's pretty cool. So you're welcome. Let me pivot to, a minute ago you referenced part of a lot of your business is you give back to your foundation, but I want to pull that out because it's really impressive. I think a big part of what I've noticed of you is that you give back a ton. You give back a ton. And you're a very humble man, but you don't toot your horn a bit, much at all. But talk about the foundation. Just I'll frame it a little bit, and you correct me wherever I miss. So you've got the Miami Children's Hospital got renamed a few years ago to the Nicklaus, your foundation to the Nicklaus Children's Hospital. Mm-hmm. You just opened a pediatric unit at the Jupiter Hospital, which you've got grandkids born there. My daughter was born there. I think the Nicklaus opened 10 or 12 branches out of the Miami Hospital for that.
I think about 14 now.
You've done a tremendous amount, you and Barbara both, of creating that foundation and giving back to kids who need it and parents to make sure their kids are taken care of it. How'd you get there?
Well, Andy, I think if you we go back, and I think it started, first of all, golf is very philanthropic. Yeah. Each year, golf raises more money for charity than all the other major sports combined. That's a lot. We passed, I don't know where we are, 2 billion something, 2 billion maybe to charity now from golf. And they raise, I don't know, 150, 200 million every year. And I forgot, let's see, we started back in 1966. Our daughter, Nan, was choking. And we couldn't, and every time we get her to the doctor, she was fine. Finally, she did this half a dozen times, and we finally said, she was about 11 months old. We said, this can't be right. So we got her down to the Columbus Children's Hospital, now the Nationwide Children's Hospital. And they did an x-ray. They found this little dark spot in her lungs, or in her windpipe. And it was a crayon. And so they didn't have a juvenile bronchoscope, so they went down with an adult bronchoscope with this little 11-month-old baby. And of course, it broke it up, dropped it in her lungs. She went into pneumonia. She spent 6 days in intensive care. We didn't know whether she was going to make it or not make it, but obviously she made it. She's got 5 kids now, one of them playing in the NFL. And so she's doing all right. But we finally, when that thing happened, we said, we really felt very strong about what Columbus Children's Hospital did, we said if there's anything we can do and anything we want to ever be involved, if we want to give it back, we want to give it to kids. So that sort of started a thing. So we started the memorial tournament, and of course, the Children's Hospital in Columbus, now, as I said, nationwide, has been recipient of the memorial tournament since day one. About 12 or 13 years ago, we'd grown up there in the North Palm Beach area, and if one of our kids got sick, or any kids got sick, they either had to go to Miami or to Orlando. And so the Honda tournament was coming up from actually Fort Lauderdale, and a friend of mine named Fred Millsaps, who ran the charities, came to me and said, Jack, what do you have in charities in this area that represent kids? And I looked at my wife, and I said, is it time you want to go for it? And she said, yeah, let's do. So we started our healthcare foundation. We became the major recipient of the funds from the Honda tournament. Well, that was 12 or 14 years ago, or 13 years ago, I guess. And so we started doing things that would benefit kids. If you look at what happened, I'm going to go off here tangent a little bit, but when I started playing golf, I was very fortunate. My wife and I have been married for 57 years this year. And we got married, and Barbara was a very smart girl. She understood that I had something I had to do. And if I was going to be good at what I needed, I didn't need confrontation, and so I needed support. So she supported me all through my golf career and my design career, and it got to be where I wasn't doing a lot of that, and then this came along. It was my turn to support her. So the last 12 years, I've done something I've never done before. I remember my first time going and asking somebody for money. I went in and sat down with this fella, and I said, and I won't use his name, I said, I'm going to ask you for some money. I've never done this before. I've never asked anybody. I said, I want 30 million. And he said, well, and he had actually written a book, and he says, about it, and he says, ask for what you want. I said, well, I'm going to ask for what I want. And so, anyway, I'm going to get there too. We're not far away with this individual. But anyway, he's a great guy. But anyway, I've enjoyed supporting her. So I've taken the backseat. This has been my wife's dream. And so Barbara, who is, people say, how many majors do you give Barbara credit for? I said, I'll give her at least 15 of them. She says, I won 3 on my own. She's been fantastic. So we have 5 kids. We have 22 grandkids. So, that's a fair number of grandkids that we've got coming along. But we started this healthcare foundation, and the Honda tournament supported us. We started our own tournament. We lost a grandchild when he was 18 months old. It's about 11 years ago. And his name was Jake. And we started our main golf tournament was a Jake. And we named that after him, and that's been sort of our guiding light. So his name is, and his death did not go wasted, that's for sure, because he's been the guiding light for a lot of kids. We had one little golf tournament this year about a month ago. We raised about $3 million in one day for it. That's pretty good.
That was just last week. That was like last week at the Honda, right? Almost 3 million.
A couple weeks ago, yeah.
That's good. That's awesome.
And so, but anyway, we've gotten. Lost Tree has been terrific. They have a pro-am every year. They give to us. Barbara did a luncheon not very long ago. Marie Osmond, who started Children's Miracle Network, she was there. And they got that little women's luncheon. She raised $420,000 for. So all this money starts to build up into the hospital, and we had our foundation, and we had a little bit of a false start in Palm Beach and didn't. Because we were working with a company that was for profit that just didn't work. And so finally Miami Children's came along and they wanted to get involved with us. And we developed a relationship, and we did an outpatient clinic up in the North Palm Beach area. And it sort of developed, and we finally, they said, they felt like they had a sort of a regional look with name Miami Children's. They said, we'd like to change it to Nicklaus Children's. We have kids come from every state in the union, and we have 57 countries come to this hospital. And we're 4th or 5th largest children's hospital in the country. But they felt like with our name, they could absolutely have a greater reach. So we said, okay, but I also came with a commitment from us to go raise some money. And so that's where the 30 million guy came in. And, but that's okay. I've had a blast doing something I've never done before. I've always relied on myself and done whatever I wanted to do, and now I go out and try to rely on others to help us in a cause, and it's been fun. So we've been doing this now, and the you know, we were talking about Jupiter a second ago, and Jupiter Medical Center has now got Nicklaus Children's Hospital pediatric up here with the George Pediatric, and they just opened a new wing of the hospital. It's only 12 beds to start with, but that'll expand. So we're very proud of where it goes. Barbara's reaching her dream. I'm enjoying doing it, and it's keeping me young.
Well, you should be proud of it. We talked about the brand a few minutes ago. I think that is a brand and an impact that you'll have on kids and society for generations, and you should feel really proud.
Well, we hope so, because it's a good thing. Kids aren't too bad, you know. They're pretty good.
It's part of our future. I was lucky enough. I played in I got to call Mr. Nicklaus's memorial tournament. I met the gentleman.
Jack. Remember?
Jack, sorry, my bad. I met the gentleman who runs the hospital. I met one of the young boys who was a heart patient. That, believe it or not, the Children's Hospital goes to the depth of getting this young boy, had a pacemaker. He was last year's recipient, I think it was. And they actually put it in a location. The kid really said one of his favorite activities was golf. And he was, very serious illness. But the doctors went to so much detail, and with Jack and others' help, actually found out where to place the pacemaker so it would not affect the kid as he learned to play the game of golf. Now the kid's healthy and doing great. It's amazing to see the young boy.
He was our Spirit Award winner up in Columbus.
Yeah, he was last year. It was amazing. Right. So
I want to tell you one story which I really like. That we have what we call our miracle doctors down in Miami at Nicklaus Children's, and there's twins were born in Minneapolis, and one little girl named Tegan was born with half a heart and one lung, and her heart was all turned around. And the doctors up there said, well, she's not going to live. Send her home. She's even calling a hospice or whatever you want to do, but she's not going to make it but a few weeks. Well, after about 2 months, she's still living and doing okay. Not great, but okay. And so the parents decided to call around to see if there was anybody who would look at it. They called Philadelphia, called Boston, called all the big hospitals, and they finally got a hold of, and finally got to Miami. And Dr. Burke down in Miami said, we do not use the word inoperable. Send her down. So when she went down to Miami, she was probably 3 months old, I guess. And so Dr. Burke did a three-dimensional with the computer, and then made a model of her heart and how he could possibly get into her to attack that and what he needed to do. Well, he went in there, turned the heart around, rebuilt the heart, turned it around. Anyway, 6 months later, they came back. She had a couple operations in there, and the doctor turns around and says, now, you take her home to grow up with her sister. Yeah, pretty neat. So, excuse me, I get a little emotional about that.
You should.
And so we were up, they live in Minneapolis, and we were at the Ryder Cup last year. And Barbara said to me, she says, I wonder how far away Tegan lives from here. But they live 5 minutes from the golf course. Barbara and I went over and saw her.
That's neat. That's all. You should feel really good about that. That's an amazing story.
Something else.
That's amazing.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
It's
that just gets me.
You don't need to apologize.
Yeah.
I think it demonstrates the compassion in what you do. It's why we have you here. So I unfortunately don't have a tissue, but I apologize for that.
I'm all right. I don't get that bad
All right,
most of the time.
Let's change the subject a little bit. We're running towards the end here, but a couple of different questions for you. So you've been lucky enough to play all over the world. You've won in every event you've played in. You've got one round of golf left. What golf course do you play?
Well, I can't go play all 400 of mine. So I take mine out. If I had one round to go play, I'd probably go to Pebble Beach.
Okay.
And the reason I go to Pebble Beach, not only is it just gorgeous, but I won the National Amateur there. I won a U.S. Open there. I won 3 Crosbys there, or whether AT&Ts now, and I won a couple of shell matches there. So I played a lot of golf there, but I just love the place. Then the question goes on, which, if I had, what my favorite place is in the game of golf, and I would go to, if I had a place to go, and it would either be Augusta or St. Andrews. That's St. Andrews, sort of the home of golf. That's why I ended my career in St. Andrews in 2005. And then if I had a course that I liked from a design standpoint, I grew up on a Donald Ross golf course, at Scioto in Columbus, and but Donald Ross lived at Pinehurst. I think Pinehurst #2, what he did there was fantastic. Here's a golf course has one little lake that's not in play. It's totally tree lined without a tree in play. It's a gorgeous place, beautiful golf course. And then the toughest golf course we'd probably go play was probably, I think, Carnoustie over in Scotland. Boy, was that a tough place to play golf. But anyway, that's sort of the way I answer that question. None of my golf courses are all others.
Well, that's an honest answer. Like I said, last one will hopefully be easy. If you had one, who'd be in your foursome?
Well, I have to make it a 5-some. I got 4 boys.
Okay, all right, that's fair. Good answer. They are lucky boys. Let's close on that. Let me close on just thanking you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for your sharing of your story, showing the emotion and how much you care. You've given a lot back to golf. You've given a lot to these young boys and men who are in the golf community. But I think more than anything, you've given a lot back to these kids and generations to come with the work that you and Barbara are doing for the Children's Hospital. It's really impressive, and it's an honor to have you here with us.
Well, I appreciate it, Andy, and I think that, for me to have the opportunity to come and speak to different groups, which I do not that often, but I do, and to have the opportunity to talk with people who are younger than I am for most of the things, and to have the ability to pass on something that we've done in life and some of the things. Hopefully, you take home some of the lessons mistakes that I've made, and hopefully some of the other stuff maybe inspire you to do something. So thank you all for your courtesy today and being a good audience, and we wish you all very well with your businesses. I know that Andy and his group, LPL, are certainly helping you and advancing what you're doing. So, or you wouldn't be here. That's for honestly sure. You're not here to listen. You're here to learn. Yeah. So, have a good time, and thank you so much for.
It's our pleasure, ladies and gentlemen. Jack Nicklaus. That was terrific. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you again, Jack. Hey, part of what we try to do at our meetings is make sure we're introducing you to things that you otherwise wouldn't get. I hope you found that enjoyable. Insights around how to perform at the top of your game, what it's like to run a business, having a family members involved in it, and then obviously giving back to your community. So thank you again, Jack. It was wonderful. Hey, that kind of concludes the general sessions here, but I do also want to make sure we take a second. We got some breakout sessions. I wouldn't be doing my part if I also didn't thank our product sponsors who all day, every day of the year try to help you manage and grow the business. So without them, we wouldn't be here. It is clearly a part of the process and part of our business process. So when you're out in the exhibit halls, if there's anything they can do to help you, make sure you're taking time to see if there's anything they can do to assist you in managing and helping your clients. So enjoy the rest of South Florida. Enjoy the rest of the afternoon, the breakout sessions, and thank you for your time this morning. Thank you.